Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pysz, and today we're going to talk about Erie, Pennsylvania, and we're going to talk about a very important part of the community, the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership. And we have James Grunke, who's the president and CEO, and welcome.
Thank you. It's always good to be here. Thanks for asking me.
I was teasing Jim. I said, I'll have what he's having, because you just seem to be really enjoying the process, James, of being the president and the CEO of this organization.
You know, it's been a great experience for me. I almost apologetic how much fun I'm having in this community, because it's a community on the rise, and it's a community that wants to strive. I've been thinking about this lately. You know, there was a fairly famous report that told Erie essentially stopped doing stupid stuff. But I think what Erie wants to be is, let's do smart stuff. And who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Now, you've been here
16 months.
Feels like you've delved into the community as if you've been here for 16 years. You really have integrated yourself. Can you just give me a number? How many people have you met with, in a round number?
Probably 1,000.
In the last 16 months?
Probably 1,000 businesses since I've been here. Because I can't figure out what is the right path to Erie without talking to people.
That's a 12-hour-a-day job just to get out and catch people.
It is, and I'm fortunate. I have a tremendous team, and that really allows me to be outwardly facing, which is where I need to be, versus working on the organization.
So as you visit many of the movers and shakers, so to speak, what have you learned? What have you seen? Is there something interesting about? And you're not from Erie, and I'm saying that just because your history. You're from.
I'm from Boise, Idaho.
Right, which is an interesting community unto itself.
Yeah. And
I heard you did a lot of good work there. So is Boise and Erie similar?
No,
okay.
They're not.
Okay. But
the community I most recently worked in was in Montana. And that was very similar to Erie in the fact. I got there in 2011. In 2010, they had lost their largest employer, which was a paper mill, and they lost about 1,000 jobs and about another 1,000.
Story, huh?
Right, and so they had some real economic challenges, and that's really when people get serious about economic development. It's not when things are good, when things are dire. But I could see the opportunity in Montana, and I could see the same thing when I first came to Erie. There's such amazing people doing amazing things that I could tell with a little bit of outside nudge, Erie could get where it needs to be. I don't mean this disrespectful to anybody who's been working in the field of economic development in Erie, but I would say a robust, real economic development strategy has never been deployed in Erie. And part of it is not because of lack of intention, but it always comes back to lack of resources and lack of leadership.
As a matter of a primer, how big is the chamber?
So we have about 1,000 members, and we represent about 77,000 jobs in that footprint. We always would like to grow, of course, but we do that by serving our members, and we do it primarily through giving them opportunities for their businesses to grow and flourish.
So the chamber, forgive me, the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership has that name for a reason.
That's right. And sometimes that does get confused that we serve Erie. We serve Erie County and the region. And so it's just as important to us that we're helping a business in Corey or Warford grow and expand as it is anywhere else. And so we take the regional approach fairly serious, and we've done a lot of outreach into the other municipalities to make sure that they understand we can be a resource to them.
How did you come about with the Erie Footprints strategic plan?
So economic development has really only 4 basic plays, right? We're going to do business attraction, business retention, business startup, and workforce development. And so we tried to spend most of 2019 understanding what are the objectives that the community wants us to achieve. One of it was job growth. We have a goal of creating 2,000 new jobs in this community over the next 5 years. 2,000 primary jobs, which would cause probably another 1,800 jobs that are induced or indirect. And as soon as we can understand what are the objectives the community has expecting for us, I can build the programs to deliver on that.
What's your procedure? Well, forgive me, you already mentioned one aspect of it. You go out and see everyone.
We have to talk to people, and I'm very sincere.
Yeah.
Anybody can have an hour of my time. And I try to meet anybody who asks for a meeting with me within 1 week. And so they're turning to us, to me, or the chamber because they don't know where to go. They need guidance, and that's what we're here to help.
Wonderful. How do you relate to some of the other large organizations? You know what I'm going to bring up. We have an outstanding group here, the Manufacturers Association. It's large, it's effective, it's integrated in the community, as you are. How does this work?
So we get that question fairly regularly. Do we do the same thing? Are we competitors? No. The answer is to no. We're great friends. I meet with their CEO once a month. We're talking about what's going on. We have a tremendous relationship with the MBA. We do very different services. They rely on us. This is where they're headquartered, so they need us to succeed so they can succeed. You know, they're their constituency, while the same, we offer different services. Ours is about providing access to people or access to information or access to education. Mm-hmm. For example, if I say we give access to why is QuickBooks important for a business to understand, the provider of the actual training would be someone like the MBA, where we're exposing the concept, they're doing the content.
What does it take to become a member of the Erie Regional Chamber Growth Partnership?
So again, we have two constituents, and anybody can join the chamber, right? We're a simple membership organization, and we base our due structure based on really kind of the number of employees, and we want to be affordable to all. So we call that, but at the same time, we want to serve all business. So we're not just how do we help our members, but how do we help Erie? And so, of course, I don't want to dilute that our members aren't important, but we have to try to grow the entire pie.
You're integrating membership with the community.
Yes.
That's a great strategy. Now, how many people do you have to get this done? Not enough is a correct answer, but I won't accept it.
Well, I have really aggressively added people to the team since I've been here. We are at a staff right now of 12 people, and they all have slightly different functions to accomplish our goals. And the new people that we've brought on our first ever director of government affairs, because we have a role to play in whether it be local issues or state or federal that impact business. We have our first time we've ever had a person dedicated to programming. What's the content that business learn? We have a individual who now does all things that are capital, meaning growing your business, getting access to capital growing your business, it's not just go to the bank. There's lots of other avenues, and we're trying to help them understand what is the menu, and then the business would pick which one makes sense to them.
And this is all built into the cost of membership.
It is.
And membership is based on size?
Size.
Oh,
so we have
okay.
two initiatives. So we have an economic development initiative called Erie Forward. And Erie Forward is we're in the final stages of raising funding for the next 5 years of $5.2 million. So we've gone out to about 100 business and leaders and said, we need to fund economic development, and we think to do what the community wants, it will take about $1 million a year. And we're about 80% done on raising that funding.
Really?
So half of our funding as an organization would come from Erie Forward, and then the other half would come from both our membership as well as what we would call non-dues revenue. So that could be a grant from the state, it could be sponsorship, it could be other activities that we're raising money. So about 25% of our budget would come from membership, and about 75% it comes from Erie Forward or non-dues revenue.
And you're 80% there.
We're 80% there on the $5 million. And so to speak about that, about 80% of that funding will come from the private sector. Why? Economic development needs to be led by the private sector. private sector is where jobs are created. But we also think there's a public sector responsibilities. I mean, somebody has to put in the infrastructure and the roads and the ordinances and the zoning and all the things that we need to be successful. So out of our $5.2 million, we think about 80% of that is going to come from the private sector and 20% coming from the public sector.
Okay. You're well along.
We're on
that plan.
We're about $4 million. And we call this, the people who are in Erie Ford, we're investors. And that means two things to us. You're investing in the community, but there's also an expectation if you're an investor that there's a return on an investment.
Yeah.
And we think we can demonstrate what the return is. So if we grow the economy by $150 million a year annually, then how that trickles to the economy is what the return is.
You're obligated to benchmark what you're doing with the money. You're
absolutely
good stewards of the money. Then. Yeah.
We believe in accountability and measurement.
Yeah.
I take no credit for it, but I think we've assembled the best team in Erie. They are dedicated. They work so hard on behalf of this community. They're committed. They're invested themselves in the community. Many of my staff have young children, so they need Erie to be successful so their families can flourish. And my job is to help them be successful.
James Grunke, President and CEO of the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership. We're talking about his staff, his objectives, not his, but the Chamber's objectives, and the Erie Forward program, which is results-based. It seems, how did that start? Did that come from the Chamber members, the board, or a collaborative? How did that come about?
It came about really in the recruitment process. My story of what we need to do to be successful has never changed. To say if we're going to be serious about economic development, we must do these things. And so it started last January, actually, with a feasibility study that we went out and interviewed the business community and said, if we were to create an economic development strategy, what are the components that you would need to see in it, and then how would we raise the money to implement it?
Did you do that study, or did you hire somebody?
We hired a firm called National Community Development Services. They came and did the assessments. It came back and said, yes, if there's the right plan put together, there's an appetite to fund it. And so we were very quiet over most of 2019 of building the strategy, raising the money for success. And we're probably, 30 to 45 days away from concluding our fundraising effort. And now we'll have 5 years that we're able to execute on the plan.
So you have measured a consultant, and now you have the objective almost reached virtually. That's outstanding to have come this far.
Yeah, well, it's a generous community that has a strong appetite for success.
Yeah. Let's go take a step back, going up to 50,000 feet again. You're covering Erie County, and that's a substantial area. You moved down to Corey, right? Is Corey in Erie County?
It is.
Still?
It is.
And they have an economic development program going as well.
They do Impact Corey.
Impact Corey. But they have some other national funding, I think. I can't remember the name of it.
And they have a strong chamber. In fact, I will be down speaking with them in the next few weeks to let the businesses in Corey understand that we're here to be a resource for them as well.
Yeah.
We're not interested in telling them what to do. We want them to view, hey, is there anything we can do to be of assistance to add value down there?
I think we went to a board meeting down there, and I was overwhelmed by the number of people sitting around the round table. I felt like there was 20 or more people on that.
It's a very engaged
and they all
community.
showed up for an important meeting, but it was just a meeting, and they all showed up. So there's a lot of energy down there.
There's a lot of energy, and it's not just our communities are there. I mean, I think we find it throughout the county. So we certainly think of ourselves regionally. You know, we look at kind of our labor pool, and we actually know that about 21% of the labor force working in Erie County is coming from outside of Erie County. So that means we need to understand what the labor market and labor shed is.
Some people would call that regionalization and call that alone to be a success story. You're drawing money in.
It is. We're drawing money in. We're
Yeah.
providing opportunities. We're providing people a quality of life that they may want to have elsewhere. Maybe they want a more rural setting.
Or
for
they
their
have
own family.
family.
They have
See,
family.
you can't just make people move easily. They have family, friends, community organizations, yet they love Erie, Pennsylvania
They do.
for
And
the opportunity of employment. Yeah, so that means they probably participate in our nonprofits to some degree. United Way, for example.
all of those things.
Yeah, it's all good. The master plan. Your master plan goes out how many years?
5 years, so to
And how far?
2024.
You're a year and a half into this.
We're actually 2020 is year one.
Oh, you're
So it took
starting in
me-
2020.
It took all of 2019 to put the plan together and begin raising the money to implement the plan.
Well, that's good because that means you weren't just throwing stuff on the.
We're not. It's been a
Chalkboard.
very, very thoughtful process. And
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, if it had not been to some grant funding received from the Erie Community Foundation, many of the people that we identified, we would have been hiring in 2020 instead of 2019. So they gave us an opportunity in what we would call year zero to already bring the people on the team who are going to execute over the next 5 years.
To me, that's incredibly a clever thing to do because if you encourage manufacturing, retail, whatever, you have more donors.
Exactly.
And the foundation benefits, they accomplish some of their goals to mitigate poverty, increase education, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So you guys are partners.
We are partners.
That's wonderful.
And they're a valuable partner, and they're a valuable partner to the community.
Can we talk about what I consider to be one of the most important parts of any organization, and that's the board?
Mm-hmm.
You have a large board, really.
We have a large board,
Yeah.
but it is absolutely quality. If you look at the composition of the board of directors, not every, but it is made up of really the A team of business leaders in our community. I mean, you have both hospital CEOs, we have 4 university presidents, we have many representatives of the major employers of the community. Any success that I may achieve in Erie is purely because of the leadership of the community. It's not because of me. We have the right leaders engaged, and we do.
I printed the list, but it ended up not coming out of our illustrious copy machine. Sorry, James, I didn't. And we don't have to plug them all, but as you look at that list, it is the Erie community. It is Erie County.
It is.
It's huge.
And it's really
Yeah.
important. I need to underscore again, their leadership to the community is what any success that we are going to achieve is because of them.
Well, my lack of photographic memory doesn't allow me to list them, but you have smaller businesses on that board.
We
They
do.
contribute as well.
We do. We have to be
Yeah.
an organization that serves everybody. So there's just like when I would talk about the Erie Ford, it has to be accessible to businesses of all size because this has to be a community effort.
Yeah.
And so we need James's Radiator Shop as much as we need Erie Insurance.
That's right, yes. We talked about your board, and they're all business owners or major community leaders in the nonprofit world as well, and I'm sure they all contribute. But as you look around this community, what, in your opinion or observation, since you are at the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership, what's coming to Erie? Do we need to do a better job, or are things coming to town that have joined your organization? I know it's a tough question because you don't have your list in front of you. But
No, I think we have more activity right now than I would expect. You know, we're having a good national narrative right now. We were just recognized by Forbes magazine as a finalist of one of the most innovative communities as it comes to Opportunity Zones, which is a new federal tax program. And there's enough outside buzz about Erie that we're generating outside interest. We held an event in the summer of last year in August called Homecoming. And we have 3 active prospects that are looking at Erie to expand their business into that are a direct result of that. We have in 2 days next week, 3 different companies are coming to visit Erie as a potential site.
Wow.
Now, there is no guarantee that any of those ever turn out,
But
but we
they're
have
showing
to
up.
have them.
yeah.
First, that's
Well,
first
the
level.
competition to become say, an enterprise zone or even a computer software development firm. There's better words for computer software now. These opportunities to build these little enclaves of technology. The competition is overwhelming.
It's fierce, and we're not just competing with our region. We're competing with the country and the globe.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did is we did a target industry analysis, which simply means what industries does Erie have a competitive advantage in as opposed to compared to the rest of the United States. So, of course, we would think manufacturing because we do have in particular, as it relates to plastics manufacturing.
Yes.
However, we found out that we also have a competitive advantage in the gaming industry. And I don't mean gaming by gambling. I mean gaming like digital gaming.
Yeah, digital game development, which is huge.
Which is a huge potential.
And Seattle and California can't have all of that. Yeah.
Right, and I think that was a little surprising to some people saying, wow, I didn't think that was
Is there some folks creating enterprises?
There are people creating businesses on it, and part of it is just because of the linkage between Penn State Behrend and Edinburgh University that both have some digital gaming education. So that's where we think we have some opportunities.
Well, you just stole my next question. Yeah. How do you feel, or what's your observation on how the universities and colleges are affecting our region economically? I mean, not just because students are here.
They're our pipeline to the future. They're critical. Erie is an incredible advantage over many, many communities in the United States. We have over 20,000 college students here, and not every community has that. And they're across the breadth in what they're being educated in, but most importantly, we have 2 engineering schools here, and that's really critical in emerging technology and startup is having a robust engineering school. And Erie's blessed with not just one terrific engineering school, but 2.
I took a nickel tour of the Red Sea up at Penn State, and I didn't want to leave. I wanted to camp out in a trailer and just go to work every day for 18 hours. Those environments are internationally known, and I should say of international caliber.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is.
What we're doing here.
It is, and I think Erie residents sometimes lose sight of how respected our institutions are, and actually outside of Erie, how well thought industry is here.
Let's attack one issue, and maybe this is part of your venue and maybe not, but as you come up the hill here and you turn around and look down the hill, there's this beautiful lake. And now let's go back to one of the diminishing resources. My understanding, for example, in Charlotte, the reservoir is down 30 feet or was, and fresh water is at a premium. Are you folks looking into any of that, or do you have any information? And if not, we can talk about something else, but I believe that's part of the attraction to this community.
It is because of the capacity of the system and because of the Great Lake. We are an ideal situation for any business that is high water user, right, or high water provider, right? So more breweries or whatever it may be.
Thank you. I totally forgot. You got to put fresh water in food product.
Right. And so it's an asset, again, that most places don't have.
I remember about 20 years ago, somebody from Asia wanted to bring tankers into the Great Lakes and load them full of water and take them out to St. Lawrence and take them back to wherever it was. You could look that one up. I forgot what Asian country, but he thought if someone's willing to spend dollars to fill tankers full of water and ship it halfway around the world, then this commodity, it's not a commodity, this resource is invaluable.
It's invaluable.
Yeah. Are there businesses that are centered on water? I'm trying to think. Actually, it doesn't matter, but what's happening is it's integral in manufacturing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
No matter how you cut it. Cooling, processing, food making, and we have that. With the last couple of minutes here, where do you see, and you've been here 16 months, and I'm sure you've researched this for quite a few months before you came, where do you see this whole community going? In other words, is it going to be a service community? Is it going to maintain its manufacturing core? You know, you go down 12th Street and some of the old Amsco and Zurn buildings are still standing. East side, there's some interesting factories running full blast. Are we going to be the same, or you mentioned plastics, and I think of the old movie The Graduate, where everybody said that's what the world was leading to. With that, what do you see? You've come from somewhere else, so your view is from high above ground still. What do you think?
So I think Erie is always going to be a community that makes stuff. It's just going to make different stuff. Like we talked digital gaming. That's making different stuff.
Who would have thought?
Manufacturing is always going to be an important component. But I think if Erie embraces that we're always going to be a community that makes what the globe needs, that's our position.
And we have all that infrastructure here, and new things are happening. I see names on 12th Street. I don't even understand what they do. They're probably members of the Erie Regional Chamber.
Some of there are so many businesses in Erie, like many communities, that all their business is external. They're in nondescript strip mall, and you don't realize they could be having a global footprint from 16th Street.
Yeah,
or
little
whatever.
storefront with 2 employees, and you don't realize how far out they reach.
Right.
Oh, man.
And we see lots of that activity.
Let's do a little promotion. How can people become members, get involved with, engage in some of the opportunities, James, that the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership offers?
Well, certainly you can always go to our website, which is eriepa.com, and learn about what we're doing.
Thank you for that. I have been scanning and jurying websites now for a year for a project, and I booted you up, and phenomenal.
There's a treasure trove of information there.
Well, I mean, the design and the ease of use and the way to get to things, but it's an attractor unto itself.
It is, and we actually just want to hear from.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. I mean, call us.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
And you are integrated with the universities and the colleges and of course, the manufacturing community, Manufacturers Association. Right. So you can help folks move in the right direction.
We hope so. That's our goal.
Yeah. Well, with this last minute, we want to take this opportunity to thank you. And once again, go to the website, or can they call you?
Call me direct. My number's on there.
Here we go, folks.
It's on
the website.
I send a newsletter out every Monday that also says, I want to hear from you, I really do.
I was going to suggest you plug the email newsletter because I look forward to it. I see your name and the chamber moniker, and immediately I open that before anything else. So you write that. Your team helps you with that.
That's right.
And there's always something interesting. So we encourage folks. I'm not supposed to be promotional. You can be promotional. You encourage people to look at that.
We do. I
know. Yeah.
We send a Monday, 5 things you should know this week, and it's just hopefully some relevant business or information that help you kind of think about things differently.
Make sure you get online and register for that, folks, because it's a great way to find out. And then events. Your events throughout the year, you have different things going on.
Yeah, we have a goal now to do 200 events per year.
Wait. That's one every other week.
That's right.
I'm a little bit flabbergasted. That's amazing.
That's what the demand, that's what people say they want from us and what our expectation is, and so we're trying to provide that. And that's across the board. That could be an
showcase for a business or a major meeting down at the convention center. These are all your events.
That's right.
Okay, go to the website, folks. And if you have the opportunity, drop a note to James Grunke, the president, CEO, and let him know what your opinion is. Compliment him on the good work the chamber is doing. And if anybody has a positive suggestion, your ears are open. Your website's
I'll
open.
Take either way, positive or negative. What can we do better?
Sometimes a small complaint causes one to measure what they're doing. So
we can always do better.
Well, you're doing a great job. Thank you for coming up to WQLN. We really appreciate this interview, and we'll have you back soon, I hope.
Well, thank you as always. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Michelle Martin. These days, it seems like just about everybody is choosing sides and doubling down on talking points. Here at NPR, we try to cut through the noise with meaningful and respectful discussions with people from all perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life. Join the conversation every weekend on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Saturday and Sunday afternoons at 5 on WQLN Radio.
Hi, this is Jeff Hanley, host of Jazz Happening Now. Each week we listen to some of the latest jazz recordings, and I think you'll be thrilled by what today's jazz musicians are doing and saying. The recording industry has changed, but the music is as alive and as vibrant as ever. The future of jazz is happening right now, if you just listen. And please do.
Sunday night at 6 on WQLN Radio.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. Here today, very special guest. We have Adam Bratton. And Adam is the executive director of the nonprofit partnership here in Erie. So what I like about Adam, and I'm going to say this right to your face, is that you've been down in the pits, in the foxhole. You've been involved with direct fundraising for years and years. So you know what it's like.
Yeah, I think, when I came onto the nonprofit partnership almost 4 years ago, I think one of the maybe reasons that that they chose me, or you chose me, I think you were still on the board.
Still on the board.
At that time,
Thank you. Yeah.
was probably because of my, one of the reasons, my diverse experience. I've worked in higher ed, public advocacy, historical groups, health and human services. I've done fundraising, communications marketing, operations, served as an executive director a couple times, so that certainly helps me in my current role. We were started by the Erie Community Foundation. We are a separate organization, but they are, for lack of a better words, the kind of largest funder of nonprofits in our community, and we are the capacity builder of nonprofits in our community. So we just have a natural synergy in working together to both equally support our nonprofit sector. But yeah, there is a lot of confusion about the sector in general. We just went through a strategic planning process, and one of our goals is to help increase awareness about the sector, the impact of the sector, what nonprofits do, what they contribute to the local community, the local economy. The nonprofit sector nationally, I think now is the third largest employer in the country. In Erie, it's probably about 14% of the workforce. So it's certainly a significant player in the community. The fact that there are a number of kind of diverse nonprofits, I think, is where some of the confusion comes from.
How many nonprofits belong to the nonprofit partnership?
Yep, we represent about 375 nonprofits. I'd say about 90% of those are in Erie County, but we have members throughout northwestern PA and some over the border in western New York and eastern Ohio.
To avoid confusion, you're totally independent. This is your membership.
Yep, this is our membership. So they pay annual dues to belong to our organization. We receive funding from the Community Foundation as well as from those dues, as well as for fees for service for our conferences and other programs that we put on.
So people know you have your own office.
Sure. We have our facility at 609 Walnut, so anybody's welcome to come down and check us out. We are on the Community Foundation campus, so we are attached to the foundation, but we do have our separate offices, beautiful building that was renovated with a donation by Mr. Hagan in memory of his wife Susie, and that was done back in 2016. So we have offices, conference rooms, training rooms that really help us kind of fulfill our mission.
So if you're a nonprofit, how do you join the nonprofit partnership?
Yep, it's a fairly simple process. Our membership dues are based on your annual revenue, and all you have to do is prove that you're a nonprofit. So our membership is reserved explicitly for nonprofits, and pay the membership due, and then you can enjoy all the activities, programs, trainings that we offer. Most of them for members are free. Some of our intensive learning is at a cost, but usually a very minimal cost.
Yeah. Well, that's just to cover expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
So we put on a fundraising training that's about 20 hours of teaching. It has an associated textbook, guest speakers, all that. They can get for $250 for that one course.
That's giving it away. That
Yeah,
barely
well,
covers
we're not in the business of making money from our
out.
nonprofits. Like you said, it's really just to
So
cover
20
costs.
hours, and they call you to register for this.
Yep, they go online.
Online.
That's the best way to register or view any of our programs that are coming up, going on yournpp.org, and we have all the information folks need to, if they're interested in joining as a member or if they're interested in taking part in our programs. And a number of our programs are open to non-members. There's a fee attached to those programs for non-members. But some of the programs are reserved explicitly just for members.
This has been around for a good number of years.
Well, we were started as a program of the Community Foundation in 2001 and became a independent nonprofit in 2006-07. And so we're still fairly young, but it was a great vision by the Community Foundation to offer this in Erie. Most cities the size of Erie don't have anything like the nonprofit partnership that exists to support the nonprofit sector. You'll find them in larger cities like New York City or Chicago or D.C., yes. But smaller, medium-sized cities like Erie rarely have something like this.
Your overall mission and strategy, we talked a little bit about your history, but the mission has changed a little bit over the years?
Well, I think when it was founded as a program, it was really to focus on kind of nonprofit governance and leadership, and that is still a primary focus. We recognize that effective boards and effective leaders of nonprofits are key to their success and to the success of the sector, so that remains a big focus of ours. But we tackle all kinds of issues through our programs and training, from leadership to fundraising to marketing communications to advocacy to diversity, what have you. We really try to make our programming as diverse as possible to provide as many resources as possible to our membership. So our overall mission really is to build the capacity, the ability of our nonprofits to do their good work.
As effective as many of our nonprofits in the community are, and we know who many of them are, and unfortunately, I shouldn't have said that, because with 370 members, is that 370 individual nonprofits, or is that just your membership?
No, those are 375 individual nonprofits. We only have organizational membership. We don't.
Okay, so that's a little scary because you divide that into 270,000 people. Metro, maybe expand that out a little. That's a lot of quite a few organizations.
Yeah,
maybe doing the same thing or maybe not. I'm not sure.
Some can do the same thing. There's certainly overlap, and we try to encourage folks to partner and collaborate when they do overlap in order to maximize their impact. There's a lot of organizations just serving very specific niches, which is fine. A lot of that's where a lot of businesses, small businesses, land as well, serving very specific communities or clients. But yeah, it's it's reflective of nonprofits in America. So there are, including churches, excluding churches, there are about 1.5 million nonprofits in the United States. With churches, churches don't have to file annual returns. Our 990 is what nonprofits have to file with the IRS. So it's hard to really understand how many churches are out there, but they estimate there's between 300,000 and 400,000 churches. So if you add them into it, there's approaching 2 million nonprofits in the United States.
With all this work that you do, well, I'm prejudiced. I've seen it over more than a decade. With all this work that you do in the community, particularly with the nonprofits, 375 of them, how do you manage this? What's your staff like?
There are 3 staff, including
That's
myself.
it?
Right.
All right. So you're outreaching for help.
Yeah, well, we are blessed with a lot of people who want to volunteer time and expertise and effort. So we have workshops and trainings almost on a weekly basis, sometimes more than once a week at our facility. Most of those workshops and trainings are taught by professionals in our region, whether it's in Erie or maybe Western New York or Pittsburgh. And most of those trainings are provided by those experts free of cost to us and our members. So we certainly tap into a kind of a deep bench in the folks that provide a lot of our programming and training. Couldn't do it without them. Myself and my staff, we do provide a lot of teaching as well. But certainly they our consultants and our experts in the field provide a lot of diversity in what they in their experiences and what they offer.
Actually, we're fortunate to have an organization as this, but looking from orbit down onto the earth, the Erie Community Foundation itself, which is a member and supports you, that's a rare occurrence to some degree. I mean, there's community foundations all over the country, but in an area the size of Erie, and that's not discriminating in any way that we're small or large, it's amazing that we have something as large and as effective as the Erie Community Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation is large for the size of our city. So they've done a great job over the years of bringing donors together to support the nonprofits in our sector. So our sector and our community at large is very fortunate to have the Erie Community Foundation. It was heartening. Last year I went to a statewide conference of community foundations, so community foundations from across Pennsylvania, and there was certainly I guess for lack of a better word, a reverence for the Erie Community Foundation, a recognition of all the good work that goes on there, the talent that is there, the leadership provided by Mike Batchelor. They were kind of the rock stars of the conference, and people were in all the sessions I went to and that sort of thing. People were always turning to them for answers and for examples as to how to run an effective community foundation. And I was there because a lot of the community foundations, or I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of the foundations around the state were interested in starting a capacity building program, initiative, organization like the partnership. And the partnership, the nonprofit partnership, really doesn't exist in any form, even in the bigger cities, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, like it does in Erie. So that was one of the reasons I was there, to talk about how we do our work and how the foundation helped and continues to help support what we do.
This is Tom Pysz. This is We Question and Learn on WQLN Radio, Northwest Pennsylvania. Adam C. Bratton, the Executive Director of the Nonprofit Partnership here in Erie, giving us an overview. You operate on a very lean budget. You don't have to say what it is. I'll leave that up to you. But you operate on dues and a gift to some degree. Actually, your members support you. You exist on the good graces of the membership.
Oh, sure. Yeah, our member dues make up about 40% of our budget. We receive another healthy part of our budget from annual grant from the Community Foundation. Then, like I said, the rest is made up for fees from the programs that we offer that are that do have fees attached to them.
And so some people still do not understand how a grant works. You get the money,
right?
But there's due diligence and a report at the end. I always hear people say, "Oh, we'll go get a grant for this," and I said, "Well, you better have one good outline, one heck of an application, but you better be prepared to show what you've accomplished relative to the requirements of that grant." A little bit of education there for some, I think.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No. Grant making is very involved, and grant seeking is a very involved process. It's, I think, a number of funders, and the Erie Community Foundation, I think, a number of years ago, has tried to simplify it a bit, but every foundation represents donors, historical donors. So they have a responsibility to ensure that the funds that they've been entrusted with are utilized in a effective and appropriate purpose. So certainly outside of maybe just individual donor writing a check to a organization, a foundation certainly has requirements for the nonprofit to demonstrate their outputs and outcomes and so it can be involved, and you know that tends to be kind of the fallback when we talk about fundraising, either events or grant making or grant seeking, and they can be very involved as you pursue them, and sometimes we don't always understand that.
Yeah. A few years ago, let's say more than a decade ago, probably about a decade ago, I saw someone design, collate, and print across 5 walls of their office a chart of all the nonprofits in this community. But what was really interesting, it had a sub-diagram under each with the board members. Mm-hmm. So the reach of a nonprofit and your organization, plus your board, mm-hmm. that's a huge piece of the Erie population.
Sure.
Very prevalent people. Very important people, donors. Not all boards are donor boards. There's different kinds of boards, right?
Oh, sure, and it depends on the organization, the size of the organization, kind of the regulatory needs of the organization. So some number of our members are very small. So we'll have about 60% of our membership is made up of organizations that have budgets under $250,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so a number of boards have to be kind of what we call working boards, where there might not be any staff. If there's staff, maybe it's a part-time kind of director who just makes sure the trains run on time. But those folks are very often in the weeds with the work of the organization. Then you have much larger organizations. Maybe they might have, certainly executive directors, senior leadership teams, supervisors, maybe 300 staff. Those boards traditionally tend to be more focused on kind of strategic vision, policy, and oversight. And so, yeah, it's a variety of needs from board members. As I mentioned earlier, boards are key to the health of the sector and the health of our nonprofits. And, we recognize that there is this diversity in how boards function, and we kind of gear our programs, our consulting, and other activities to really meet those individual organizations where they are.
Mm. The concepts you brought up, the donor board, the volunteer board, and some folks just like being on a board. I call them vanity boards, and that's not an insult because they do care, or else they wouldn't be on that board. But what you have indicated, there's different structures to each of these organizations, and the boards are different in each and every scenario as well. Of these groups, these smaller groups, 1 or 2 people in an organization, does that happen here?
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's nonprofits just with just 1 or 2 staff. Again, that's often where you find board membership a little bit, the expectation that there's a little more kind of hands-on work with that organization. But sure, like I said, a number of our nonprofits being, again, a majority smaller nonprofits, that's reflective nationally as well.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, around the U.S., most a majority of nonprofits are smaller entities and not necessarily the larger ones that we think of.
This may be an editorial question, but are there too many nonprofits? Or can there be that many, but should there be some kind of co-joining of energy and efforts?
I think it's probably the second part of your your editorial.
Yes,
we get asked a lot, are there too many nonprofits? And kind of my response is there's as many as is needed, really. They're supported. They're not, they don't function as a for-profit business would. They're often reliant on donors, grant money, reimbursement from maybe governmental agencies. So they exist as they're needed. What we try to talk about to them and to others is, are they as effective as they can be in doing their work? So if there are a handful of smaller organizations that are doing similar work, maybe not the same, but have compatible missions, we certainly would like them to have conversations about how they can work more closely together, like you said, bring more energy towards their mission as a joint effort and a joint force, with the ultimate goal of having a greater impact on their mission and the people that they serve. So that's the ultimate goal. It's not to reduce nonprofits, it's to increase the impact of them.
The impact, yeah. And increase whatever value you bring to the table. And
right.
More than one is always good.
Yep, and it's just, that's kind of, the way most things work is it's often easier and you're often able to do more if you work with others than doing it by yourself.
What a positive way to frame that. That's wonderful. Now let's flip the chart upside down. There would be no nonprofits if there wasn't huge need in a community. And as affluent as this community has been going back to the late 1800s, I can think of organizations started in 1880 in this town going all the way to the 21st century here, but the needs, and this has happened in some of the smaller towns around northwest Pennsylvania, it's the needs have increased dramatically. And you would think of the 21st century with technology and all the energy and the good work of all our nonprofits, this would be a less stressful scenario in our community. But it's getting worse to some degree.
Well, yeah, I think it's
I see so many things.
Yeah, there's a number of things that obviously are out of the control of the nonprofit sector,
right,
that lend maybe to those issues. I think within the sector, there are a number of nonprofits because there are a number of needs, and that's why the sector exists, especially in the United States. It's what people don't always kind of connect is the fact that the nonprofit sector in the United States is somewhat unique. If you go to even Europe, Western
or even
Europe,
Canada,
right? Yeah. There isn't quite the same charitable sector because largely the government does that work, and that's reflected in those countries and in those regions with higher taxes. So it's if we didn't have the sector in the United States, we'd still take care of the people who need to be taken care of. We would just be the government would likely be doing
somebody
that for
would do
us.
The work, yeah.
So it's
which begs the ultimate question. They took the personal exemption up to a substantial amount. And everyone was afraid that people would not be as generous, so to speak, because they weren't getting a deduction for their good gifts. That's relative to how much money you make or have and how much you're giving away. But have you seen an effect of the change in the tax form?
There's really last year was the first year where it really was going to have an impact. And nationally what we saw – and I should have harder numbers here. I think charitable giving in the United States went from $410 billion to $428 billion. So the giving did not decrease.
It actually increased a touch.
Yeah, it increased on about as average as it
Always
usually
does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So people give from the heart, not from the tax.
well, and that's what there were projections that giving was going to go down
Yeah.
$10 to $20 billion, and it didn't happen. And I was asked about it when it was happening, and every kind of survey or study or what have you that you look at as to why donors give, they always rank the charitable deduction really at the bottom. It's really they give because they are impacted by the mission of the organization, they care about it, they serve the organization, all those kind of intangible things. The charitable deduction was always ranked pretty low, and so I wasn't too concerned about that having a significant impact. I think anecdotally there are organizations that think they felt that effect, that people gave less to them because of that. But I think the numbers nationally kind of prove that it didn't happen. But with a caveat, we are seeing other things happen nationally with giving. So fewer people are giving, even though the giving's going up. Fewer people are giving.
Right.
How different generations give is kind of dramatically different. So there are things changing nationally in our society about charitable giving that that'll have more ramifications than the tax code.
That's interesting. Before we run out of time here, I think some folks may have some questions for you. Maybe would like to participate in the outreach of the nonprofit partnership. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. Our website is www.yournpp.org, or they can give us a call at 814-240-2490, and those are the two best ways to get a hold of us. Certainly, the website has a ton of information.
I
on
missed
it.
the rebuild. I got to congratulate you. The rebuild was phenomenal.
Yeah, it looks great. Our membership uses it a lot because we have a resource library on the website, and it's open to that resource library is not restricted to our membership. So anybody interested in various aspects of the nonprofit work can go in our resource library, and we have vetted everything that's in there or have created it ourselves, and so it's a lot of resources on that site for our members and others.
Thank you so much for visiting WQLN. Thank you for all your outreach and hard work in the community. Thank you to all your nonprofit members who keep this community vibrant and help the underserved and all the other folks that need things here.
Well, thank you, Tom.
And that makes for a good community. You really are good economic development. Forgive me for using that term.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing that we're really looking to the future about promoting is the fact that our nonprofit sector has not only an impact in holding our community together, it also has a significant impact in things like economic development, where we do represent a large portion of the workforce, and without the sector, like I said, without the sector, we'd probably be seeing our governmental sector doing it, and we'd certainly be paying for that through taxes.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. That's one great thing about America is that we take care of those who need it, and so it'd happen either way, and we just so happen to do it here in America with our nonprofit sector.
Congratulations on having a really positive perspective on how to accomplish what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.